There's only 24 hours in a day. So how are you going to find the time to build your vision and build your passion and have time for that startup or that next business venture? Today, we're going to be talking about 3 tangible tools that you can use to be able to make and create and control the time that you have to build that business. Hi guys, welcome back to Montreal's Elite Unleashed, the podcast for hustlers looking to level up their lives. I'm your host, Logan Boyce. With me, as always, is John Ehrlich. Both of us have created a massive real estate business here in Montreal that has just surpassed $500 million worth of sales volume. And today we are talking to you about an awesome topic, which is time behavior, time control, and finding the time for your startup or next business venture. How's it going, John?
It's going great because I have all of the time that I need.
Because we had time for this podcast.
Yeah, actually, that's hilarious because that is something that we've always had a passion for. We've had the idea for, and then we had to put the time in to be able to make it.
Yep.
While still having everything else running along. So I think that's we could almost even start there with how we were able to put the time aside to make this even happen because it's something we're passionate about.
Yeah, it's a great little place to start there for sure. I think it a lot of it has to do with leverage, and that's a tough thing to start with. I think just because it's tough to have leverage if you don't have any money. So if you're stuck in a position where you're working 9 to 5 and you want to find time for your business, I think the first thing that you would want to do is invest in yourself. You know, find the time to go on YouTube and spend the time learning about what it is that you want to do. So let's say you've made the decision you want to build a drop shipping company or something of that nature. And I know you have a drop shipping company, so you can actually talk to this a little bit better than I can. But all I know is the first thing I would do if I decided, you know what, I'm going to build out this whole AI process where I don't touch anything or whatever. The first thing I'm gonna have to do is learn about it. And I think a lot of people kind of skip that step. They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna do it. But then they keep telling themselves they're gonna do it. They never make the time. They never set the time aside. They never make the time sacred, and everything just falls by the wayside. So, especially given the fact that you're a part owner of Montreal's Elite Real Estate Group, you have an active role within the company, and you sell real estate still. How the heck did you have time to start something else?
Yeah, that brings us to our first video sponsor.
That's hilarious.
We were basically, this actually is kind of funny because we want to talk about a bunch of different aspects surrounding how to find the time for your startup. And I don't want to jump to the concept of communication, but I am partnered with Lindsay, my significant other, and we kind of just fell upon this thing that we loved, which was dog clothing. And we loved dressing our little pup up, and we saw how much joy that brought us. And then we saw that there was a profitable business model there. And as we started doing more research into it, we started realizing like, holy cow, yeah, this could be something. And because I have the confidence, having built a business in the past, I have the confidence to be able to say, okay, well, now I know where to go to start learning about this, to then follow the steps to build out this e-commerce website. I don't like drop ship. I find drop shipping is such like a dirty term.
Yeah. It's like a used car salesman type thing.
Yeah, you're like a 17-year-old in your basement. And you're like, I don't own any of this stuff. I just drop ship it.
We apologize to anybody actually looking to drop ship anything.
Yeah, sorry to the 17-year-olds in their basement drop shipping. But it was just because we both were passionate about it. We said, okay, well, we could watch TV at night, or we could learn about this thing that we're excited about.
Yep,
yeah,
there you go.
Take away that watching TV time, put it towards building something. And it's so cool because it's like a baby. And you just start learning about each other. You start learning about this thing that you want to have a voice, and you get passionate about it. You get excited about it. And then it just starts becoming this behemoth, and you hit hardships and walls. And it's just like everything else. You have to figure out how to break through those walls and find the next thing.
To focus on the first step there, it was the learning aspect, right? So like if you were to break down how much time you spent learning versus implementing, what do you think the percentage differential would be there?
Oh man, I would say that it's like a 50-50 to 60-40
60 in whose favor?
in favor of implementing and learning. Because I do find a lot of the
Those are
time.
the two options.
Yeah, you're right.
So 60 was for which?
60 would be for implementing and 40 would be for learning.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the reason for that was because there would be stuff that we needed to implement in order for it to work, and then it wouldn't work the way we wanted it to. So you have to go back and learn.
Yep.
And it's a constant, like every single thing you're like, okay, I'm going to do this part now. And you have a guide, you followed it through. And actually, this is one thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on too, because there are so many freaking guides out there. There's so many people out there who are like, this is how you do it. Let me show you how to learn.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, I don't want to spend 10 grand on this program to like learn if I'm not, is there an easier way? Is there something that I could do? We didn't spend 10 grand on any programs. We learned everything just through YouTube and through different coaches that were giving away content for free. And in real estate, I've done the same thing before where there's a lot of free content out there. And as long as you implement, you start to learn.
Of course.
And then you realize, yeah, okay, wait a minute. This person has some really solid lessons here to learn from. I want to learn more and I'll pay to learn from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on. Because I think a lot of the times it's people get into analysis paralysis. We're like, oh, I just watched this video or I just binged this series on how to do X, Y, or Z. And they're like, I still don't feel confident enough. And I think that's one thing I wanted to touch on with that is you brought to this business venture so much confidence because of all the success that you and I have had in the past and you've had in the past with your real estate sales. You brought so much confidence into the matter that you weren't scared of the implementation process and you weren't scared of the eventual no's and the eventual learning processes that have to come with that. So I think that's something to kind of talk about just because that's huge, right? It's like, how do you bring in that level of confidence to this business venture to make sure that the time that you are spending is going to be valuable, intentional time? Because I find when I'm super into something, when I'm confident about something, my time is significantly more intentional.
Yeah, no, 100%. I honestly, if you look at something as if it's going to fail, then it's going to fail, right? Yeah. We used to have this saying, and I'm going to say maybe not a PC word, but we used to say, commit or eat shit. In a past life of mine, and that was when I was, jumping off of horses.
I still use that phrase to this day. That's amazing.
That's it. And when you're gonna do something, do it. Basically, is what it means. Because if you don't do it, well, then you're gonna eat shit.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck.
Absolutely.
So for Ollyware, the goal was, you know what, we're just gonna do this. It's gonna be fun. I already have a clear vision of what I want it to be, and we're gonna just slowly, step by step, grow it, and it's gonna build. And it's okay that it takes time. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna be. And you're going to get punched in the face. You're going to get kicked while you're down. It's going to suck. Google's going to make your life hell.
All the algorithms are going to change in like 2 days. Exactly. You will have mastered one specific thing. And then 2 days later, everything's going to be different.
There's going to be a new special rules category for whatever you're doing. Yeah. So, but as long as you have the like a clear vision, then you'll be able to figure out, okay, who do I need to learn from? What is it that I need to learn? And what do I need to implement? And where can I go to learn it?
Yeah. So it kind of talks about what we discussed a little bit last week, which was finding a mentor or finding somebody that's done it and kind of replicating it a little bit. But so now we're talking about the actual implementation process, which is, how do you make sure that when you are spending the time on it, that the time is don't count the hours, make the hours count. So how do you get that?
Hold on, I'm going to get you with another one.
Yeah, hit me.
Work expands into the time you give it.
Yeah, that's true, man.
Yep.
Oh man, do I believe that?
Yep.
Dude, if you give yourself 30 minutes to clean your kitchen, it's going to be clean in 30 minutes. You give yourself 3 hours to clean your kitchen, it's going to take you 3 hours.
Oh yeah.
100 million%, dude. I completely agree.
Yep.
I've got some thoughts on this, but I'm keen to hear yours because we're using your thing as kind of a case study, which we didn't plan to do, but I think it's awesome.
I think it's a good case study.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. So
it's also this video sponsor.
We're going to loop that joke in every 5 minutes. Get ready.
I'm okay with it because we didn't pay for that sponsorship.
But yeah, no, there's something to be said about time blocking.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, let's say I'm working 9 to 5. I'm working at, some company downtown. I'm working in a development team or something along the lines of that. But then I get home. There's two problems. A, how do I get the energy to do it? That's the number one thing. And the number two thing is, how do I make sure that when I am actioning post work, post 5 p.m., how do I make sure that that time is, super high level? So,
Yeah.
you're selling houses all day. You need to chuck a couple hours at your e-commerce business. How do you make sure that happens at a high level?
Yeah, and so we're fortunate where we're positioned because we have an office with a lot of people who do SEO and who do accounting and who do like social media advertising.
Yeah.
So I like to pick people's brains periodically throughout the day
Nice.
to get like the nuggets that'll get me excited about the next thing. Like just yesterday, I was talking with Jen about the idea of business numbers for partnerships, sole proprietorships, instead of doing an incorporation. And it's like, that probably sounded like the most boring thing of life.
It did. I fell asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Or kill me now. But because I was in the space where I was like, I need to understand what should I be doing here, it was the most intriguing and awesome, cool thing to learn about for that one period. And then to take the time afterwards, I was excited about it. I was like, okay, I'm going to finish all this other work and I'm going to get to the point where I could go on the CRA and build out the business number and all this other stuff. So you kind of, if you're passionate about it and you're excited about it, you'll have that time set up and you'll respect that time.
Yeah.
Because like looking at your calendar and having it look like a box of Legos that are just like just
Stop it.
screwing across a bunch of squares.
So many
everywhere.
people feel personally attacked right now, just so you know, including me.
Sorry if I offended you in your iCal. But yeah, like you have a certain amount of time to get something done. So get excited about that thing that you're going to be working on, set it up, and then respect the crap out of that time.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then it's just a huge waste. And if you give yourself too much time to do something, like we said, you're going to be working on it for that whole time, just dilly-dallying.
Yep, I totally agree. I think at the end of the day, you come home from your job, you were working for somebody else when you were there from 9 to 5 that day. That person gave you probably 2 15-minute breaks. That person gave you 1 hour for lunch. That's pretty standard, right? But then you come home, and who are you working for? Yourself.
Yep.
Most people are pretty bad at that. And it's a skill that can be trained and learned, which is great news. So if you feel like, I'm not great at being my own boss, or I'm not so great with accountability, it's something you can learn. It's 100% something you can learn. And I've always been taught that time blocking is BS, like you just said. You can have the most colorful time blocking and it'll look really pretty and you'll feel busy. But there's a difference between busy and productive. So when rather than blocking for time, the most important thing is focusing on what is your behavior within those time blocks. So let's say, again, I'm always going to go back to the domain of sales, but when you need to be on the phones lead generating in the mornings, typically that's when most sales jobs do the majority of their lead gen. How do you make sure that you arrive and your time is incredibly well respected during that time? Well, the first thing is if your time block is from 9 to 11, pretty standard time block, you don't arrive at 9. You arrive like 15 minutes early. Why? Well, because there's always going to be that little distraction in the office, or that little distraction where you're making a coffee, you're doing this, you're doing, oh, hey, Alex, how are you? The whole thing, and your little chit chat and blah, blah. And, oh, you did that deal? That's crazy. I had a customer that said this one time, it was wild. And all of a sudden 20 minutes go by, you're 20 minutes into your 2-hour time block, that's 15% of your time, just poof, gone. And you're never going to get that back. So it's a scary thing. So time behavior is so bloody important because it needs to be respected on every single step of the way. And you can get really crazy with it. I was taught once that if it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist. That was a little scary, but it's a powerful thing to reiterate to yourself regularly.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I've heard of people like locking themselves in a room and like all they have is like a phone. And
Gatorade and a protein bar.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Come and get me out in like 4 hours.
Yep.
Don't let me out unless the building's on fire. Even then, like maybe. Just leave me there. Yeah, I think you're so right. Like if you start disrespecting your time, you give yourself license to continue to do it over and over and over again. If you make that time religious and you cannot disrespect it, then it's not a question. I remember coming into the office to make phone calls, and I would be making my phone calls, and I would hear people talking in the halls, and I'd be like, man, it's like, how did they make their calls that quickly?
Right.
Oh man. And it's like, they didn't make their calls. they were shirking their responsibility of making calls.
sure.
I was like, man, I've only made like 5 calls so far. How did they do that?
Yeah.
They weren't doing it.
No. How many of them had as good a year as you that year? Probably none of them.
No, exactly.
Yeah, wild stuff. I could talk forever on time behavior, but I think it's at the end of the day, I want to put ourselves in the probable situation that most of our viewers are finding themselves in, which is they come home and it's 5, 6 o'clock, they finish their day. How do they get the energy? Well, you kind of solve that. You said, listen, you never chase the money. It's never about the money. You have to find something that actually excites you as a person, because when you're excited about something, you build it, even though the actual business idea may not be as profitable as this other one, this big shiny object. If you're psyched about it and you build it to a super high level, it's going to be more profitable than the other thing that, was more shiny, but you're not into it. You're going to find every reason to not build that business that's shiny, because you're like, it's shiny, it's cool, but I don't love it. So you might give a couple of weeks of good work at it and you're like, oh, it's just not for me. It's whatever. But if you find something that you're actually passionate about, that's what's going to make you come home and want to work on it. And it comes to for me, it was just taking documentation. And I think Apple does a really good job of this with screen time. I don't know if you get that on Sundays.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
pretty
ignore
cool.
it right away, though.
Yeah, I ignore it. But a couple of times I look at it because it'll show me a number that I'm like, what, really? And it shows you how much time you spent looking at various things. And if you have the whole Apple ecosystem, you can see like how much time was spent watching at your
Wait
Apple
a
TVs
minute.
and things like that. Yeah.
It's going from every device when it sends you that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But at the end of the day, even if it was just your phone, it tells you how much screen time was spent on every single application.
Okay.
So imagine you're looking at your last week and it says that you spent 3 hours on Facebook. And deep in your soul, you've probably posted twice on Facebook that week. You're like, dude, what was I doing for 3 hours? I was definitely on the Reels section.
Yeah, just dead scrolling.
Just doom scrolling like crazy,
Yeah,
right?
it's like doom scrolling.
So you see, listen, John, get the vernacular right, buddy.
So stupid.
But yeah, so imagine the same thing. You're looking at the hours you're spending on Instagram, the hours you're spending on Netflix. But you can do that without tech helping you out. When I was doing that back in the day, I was taking stock in terms of like, what am I doing? Because one of my mentors had said, hey, if you tell me what you do before 8 in the morning and after 8 p.m. at night, I'll tell you what your financial future looks like. And when that person told me that, I was like, oh my God, this is serious. Because I think after 8 o'clock at night, I'm likely watching Friends and passing out or something. And that's when I was like just starting. I was still like, I was on the upswing, don't get me wrong, but I knew there was a lot of work to be done. So when he told me that, I started thinking, what am I doing before 8? Nothing. Wake up, brush my teeth. That's what I was doing before 8 at that time.
Most people too. It's like
Right.
Wake up and get right out the door to go to work.
Yeah,
It's like
100%.
Yeah.
But it's like, how effective is that? How ready for you for your day? So it wasn't until both of us read The Miracle Morning that we kind of changed that about ourselves. It was like easily one of my favorite personal development books I've ever read, like far and away. And it's just about, how can you wake up a little bit earlier and fit all that personal development stuff that you need to do? Because spoiler alert, if you've got a side hustle or a business venture that you're trying to start after hours, you have to be fully invested in yourself as well as your business. So what are you doing to better yourself? Are you spending the time educating yourself like we talked about here? Are you spending time meditating and visualizing what you want for the future? Are you meditating and visualizing around what you want your day to look like on a more granular level? Well, Miracle Morning kind of walked me through all of that. And now I see what my mentor at the time meant when he said, what do you do before 8 in the morning and after 8 p.m. at night? What he's referring to in the morning is what is your personal development routine looks like. And after 8 p.m., he's referring to, are you dicking around, basically, right?
Well, and it's like eating healthy food and eating bad food, right? Like people are like, well,
you had me at bad food. I'm messing.
But it's so true. It's like, well, man, I just don't have the energy to go to the gym. Well, you get energy from going to the gym. You become a stronger.
Sounds like a Ponzi scheme, bro. Have you seen that meme? It's so funny. It's like, I don't have the energy for the gym, but I know the gym gives me energy. Sounds like a Ponzi scheme, bro.
Oh, but it's that classic. So it's like I eat because I'm fat, and I'm fat because I eat.
Yeah.
Like, so basically that's what it is. Like the miracle morning is so brilliant because you want to train yourself to wake up earlier so that you can fit time in for the things that you want to get done. But then you try to wake up earlier, that alarm clock goes off. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, no, not happening. And then you snooze, and then you wake up later than you would have even anyways, and you're just not even rested. So if you have a plan for when you wake up, then it's like, okay, no, now I know I'm waking up for this.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm waking up for this little section that I have to do this thing, and I have to get it done at this time. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And if it's not going to happen, then why? It's not important to you. Why is it even in your calendar? Why is it in your life?
It's so funny. I'm gonna talk about you for a quick second. But last week, I remember you had changed your workout times.
Mm-hmm.
You were working out in the evenings and you switched to the mornings.
Yep.
And I remember the exact sentence you said because I laughed my ass off in my head. You were like, in the morning, I hate it. But in the evening, I love it. Because you had all this extra time in the evening that you now got it done in the morning. Because you were likely doing the other stuff in the miracle morning in the morning and just not doing the workout. Because you're obviously very serious about your workouts. You can't just do a 5-minute workout. That's not realistic for John Ehrlich, but it's realistic for most people. A lot of people can get at least a little bit of a workout in just 5 to 7 or whatever, just anything, just get the blood going.
Yeah. Well, I honestly think it's just habits. It's building out the habits for it. And like, it doesn't matter what you do, especially at the beginning. It matters that you do it.
Yeah.
So just getting yourself into doing it, like even just cleaning your kitchen, like that first, you're like, I don't want to do it. Okay. Well, commit to like 5 minutes of cleaning the kitchen. If you really don't want to do it after that, don't continue doing it. And then you're going to be there doing it. And you're like, well, I might as well just finish doing it now. I'm already here.
Yep.
I'm not going to stop now. You kind of trick yourself into getting that done. But same thing when you're waking up at 5 a.m. You're like, I don't want to get up. Okay, I'm going to do, this first section of my miracle morning. And then if I'm really not down, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to sleep. And you're like, right after you get the first section of it done,
you're not going back down.
You're not going back to sleep.
No chance.
So you commit to the small thing. Don't commit to eating the whole elephant. Eat a little bit of the elephant.
Yeah,
I don't know why we always eat elephants.
Or the frogs. That's the other one.
The frog is the bad one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing too, because it's like you have to train your brain to focus on the outcome of the situation more than the actual action itself. And that's a really tough thing to do. So like if you're talking about waking up early and doing all of these personal development stuff in the morning, it's awesome. You know that down the line, 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, 36 months from now, you like the expansion in your life that's going to occur is going to be absolutely next level. But it's going to suck a little bit to wake up at 5. So how do you focus on the big when the small kind of sucks? And listen, I don't care who you are. Waking up at 5 in the morning is not fun for anybody. I don't want anybody to feel like we're preaching that waking up at 5 in the morning is fun and we love it. No, it sucks. It sucks for everybody.
Except Dwayne Johnson.
So yeah, he wakes up at 3 because he's a total psycho. But it's it's not fun. We just like the result of it. Just like, and John might disagree with me on this, but I have a belief that working out is not fun. I don't think working out is fun. I think it's the worst thing ever. However, the result of working out is awesome. How I feel when the workout is complete is a feeling that I will strive for when I wake up in the morning and when I want to do something. That's awesome. I love that. But the actual act of working out is like, dude, I don't want to be pushing fucking 100 pounds over my head. I shouldn't have swore. But I don't want to be pushing hundreds of pounds around and pulling hundreds of pounds around or whatever. I'm acting like I can lift 100 pounds. I cannot lift 100 pounds. I've been described as lanky. No, I'm messing. But no, anyway, to come back to it, I think it's just, man, when you make a decision to do something and you put that block in your calendar, what kind of fail safes are you putting in place to make sure that your behavior within that time block is regimented? It's military.
Well, and I think that comes back to like, how are you holding yourself accountable? So one of the great ways to hold yourself accountable is to share your vision and your goals with other people. Communicate that. The people around you want to see you succeed. So if you communicate your vision with other people, well, you're going to let down all these people if you don't do it. Right. And when you are doing it, people are going to be so supportive of you doing it. They're going to want to find ways to help you as much as they can. So communicating that is really like the first step. Is, I want to do this. This is what I'm going to do. And you know what? Sometimes maybe you think that someone's going to tell you you can't do it. Well, that's great too. Let that
good motivation.
Fuel you. Yeah. You think I can't do it? I used to have a guy in an organization that I worked at who would call me fat all the time. Me and a couple of other guys, he'd call us fat all the time. And we'd be in the gym just working out because we all worked out at the same gym. All be in the gym and be like, "Oh, we're going to show that guy. We're going to show him, call me fat." Right? So
That is
that
awesome.
hate fueled us for a while.
So he knew it was like a troll, right?
Yeah, no, he knew he was trolling
That's
us.
awesome.
Wow.
I love that.
We didn't really know if he called me and my buddy Phil Twinkies.
Dude, if he was calling you guys fat,
Yeah.
he must have been the most shredded dude that's ever been shredded
Not
of all
even.
shred. Oh, so he was definitely trolling.
He just
then.
had a big
He was
set
for
of
sure.
cojones.
No, he's for sure trolling, dude. That reminds me, man. So little. I have to tell this story because it's so freaking good. Everyone remembers the 28-3 comeback that the Patriots had in the Super Bowl. They did that because Julian Edelman yelled at Tom Brady, telling him he's too old. It was either that Super Bowl or the one afterwards, but he was yelling at him, telling him, "You're too old. You're too old. You're too old." He's yelling at him at the bench just because he knew that would fire him up.
Yup.
So, like, if you don't have somebody to communicate that with, and you need to have that communication level with yourself, find out what gets you going. Find out what makes you angry, what riles you up, and put that on your vision board. Put that in a place where you wake up every day and you see it. You know, something that riles you up. It could be something. It could be the carrot or it could be the stick, right? Some people are motivated by the carrot, you know, putting up the next car that you want, put up the next thing that you're going to do for your family, the next vacation you're going to take, whatever. Some people like the stick, you know, and I don't even know how you'd put that into images. I've never used that for a vision board, but
nobody who's done anything really incredible has only people that love them. Like, people who've done really incredible things have haters.
Of course.
No matter what you do,
Yep.
you're gonna have haters. And you could live your life in fear of the people who are gonna hate you, or you could love the fact that you're at a point. I remember I did something crazy a couple of years ago, and boy, oh boy, did I get haters. But I loved waking up every single day, seeing what that hate would do for those people and what it would do for me, how it would propel me forward and hold me accountable to having to do more every single day. Because I was like, well, they can't be right. I can't
feel
let them
awful
be right.
that you're talking about this and gave no details. So I'm just going to chime in because I think it's unfair to our listeners and viewers. John was half naked on a billboard and it was the best thing of all time. Everyone's seen I Love You Man, right? The movie I Love You Man. So in that movie, there's a realtor who his friend borrows money from him and puts up a billboard of a photoshopped version of him half naked under the sheets saying, "I can sell your home in my sleep." So John did that because he's a legend, an absolute living legend.
Yep. And naturally, it got a lot of attention, both good and bad. But
I think the really funny thing about that was the haters were exclusively.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was exclusively part of the real estate community that brought the hate. Everybody else outside of the real estate community loved it.
Public loved it.
The public, yeah, really did love it. It went all across the nation too. It was like the viral thing that went. I had friends in Florida who were like, "John, why am I seeing you half naked?"
Our agency was like, "We're not sure what to do about this because it came all the way to Vancouver and we don't know what to do about this."
It's like, it's good, and also people are mad, but we don't know.
Yeah,
So
that was so good.
But
I'm so glad we segued. I don't know how we got there, but I'm just so glad that we did.
the target on the back, right?
Yeah.
And then I was hearing from other people. Like, I would go out and I would bring my business card whenever I go with other clients, and I'd be like, "You need a business card?" They're like, "We know who you are."
That's awesome.
But that's the thing. No matter what you do, if you're going to do something and you want it to get big enough, people are going to love you and people are going to hate you.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let the hate destroy you. Just find a way to use that. And some people might even get excited. Like you said, they might have it on their vision board. They want to have a group of people that comment on everything that they do to just say that they hate them so much, and then you'll see all of the love and support around you come out,
Yeah.
and support you.
Well, I think it's important to talk about, you know, the communication that we have with the people that we love about what it is that we're doing, and get back to our listeners here, which is likely people that are working 9 to 5 and want to start their business afterwards. It's, man, if you need to have extreme buy-in from everybody in your life. And I think you get the motivation, like to your point, whereas when you communicate that vision that you have or what it is you're trying to build, you communicate with the people that you love and the people that love you in your life, it's going to create extra motivation for you to actually get that stuff done. I think that's so, so important. But everybody needs to be on the same page. So making sure the expectations are set really, really well. So likely if you're working 9 to 5 and you've got a side hustle going or another venture going, it's because you want to build something bigger. You want something better with your life. For whatever reason, you feel like you're a little bit trapped. You feel like maybe you're a little bit underpaid for what you believe that you're capable of contributing to the world. So now you've gone out and you've started this, or you want to start this business venture. Man, if you're living with somebody, you've got a wife, a girlfriend, kids, whatever it is, there needs to be massive communication about what the expectations are and what the potential rewards are with that. So if you're a gal and you're starting in whatever field you're starting in, you're building out an e-commerce business, you're building out a drop shipping business, whatever it is, have the communication with your husband. Have a communication saying, listen, I'm not going to be around as much. And I'm not going to be able to cook as many dinners. I'm not going to be able to, go out with you as much. You want to take me out. I'm not going to be able to go out as much. I'm not going to be, normally it's a 3-4 cooking schedule. I can't do that. You're going to have to step up and help me. But here's the benefits. Here's what is going to be able to be provided in the future. When this takes off, when this succeeds, because you have to have that confidence coming in. When this succeeds, these are the benefits that are going to happen. Same thing happens on the man side. You say, listen, honey, I'm not going to be around as much. When I come home, I'm going to have to, what I say, go down to the lab. That's the communication that I've had with my wife is I say, listen, I got to go down to the lab. That's what I call my office in my basement where there are no windows. And I just freaking lock myself in there and get it done, So I said, when it's busy season, I explain that to her. I'd rather over communicate the issue and say, I'm going to be coming home and I will help with X, Y, and Z. I will likely not be able to help with X, Y, and Z. I'm probably only going to be able to cook maybe 2 or 3 nights of the week rather than, what I'd like to do, which is 3 or 4. But when this gets to the level that I want it to get to, these are the benefits. We're going to be able to do the Disney trip. We're going to be able to do that, whatever it is, all the carrots that you need to be explained. But the worst thing that happens, and I see it all the time from entrepreneurs, is that they don't communicate with the people that they love. And the expectations are not at the same place. So when you don't communicate those expectations, that's how relationships fall apart. And this podcast is not designed to make your relationship fall apart. So just over communicating.
Yep. Well, I think that's so important too, because it can't be a secret. If it's going to become something that's bigger, life is not balanced. Nothing in life will ever be like this perfectly balanced thing. One of the most beautiful work-life balance discussions that I had ever heard about was the premise was life is counterbalance. It's like a ballerina who's standing on their tippy toes, like trying, not to fall one way, not to fall the other way, but just to stay, they're counterbalancing themselves. And yeah, there are going to be times where you're going to be super busy. You're going to be like getting something off the ground takes so much energy, right? They say something like it's a jet uses most of its fuel.
Yeah, it's like 80% of its fuel taking off.
Yeah, it takes so much energy to get something off the ground. But once it's in the air, well, then it's coasting and it takes a lot less energy. So having that understanding, having that communication with the people around you and the expectations in your own life and from the people around you in your life, it sets you up to succeed in that arena. So you definitely need to communicate that. You need everyone's buy-in.
Everyone's got to have the same goals too.
Yep.
So the interesting thing that I've seen as well is when one of the people in the relationship wants to get to the next level or they want to reach this next echelon and the other person's very comfortable where they're at. And that could be a recipe for disaster as well. So again, it's all about over communicating, because if you dance around that, you're not going to get to the crux of the issue. But yeah, over communication, I think, is super, super important. So guys, the main things that we talked about today for how to make the time and how to find the time, how to create the time for your next business venture or your side hustle right now was it starts with investing in yourself, right? Take the classes, learn, spend the time on YouTube. Make sure that when you're time blocking, it's not just for the sake of making it look like a pretty Lego design. Make sure that the time blocking is also coupled with what we call time behavior, making sure that you've got fail safes in there to make sure that your behavior within that time block is regimented and military. And communication with all the people in your life that you love to make sure everybody's on the same page. Because at the end of the day, when you succeed, hopefully, if you've got the right mindset, everybody in your life succeeds.